Hey everybody, it's Tuesday.
And welcome to this week's edition of Hook, Line, and Striker.
I'm Josh.
And I'm Emily. And thank you guys for being here with us tonight.
Yep.
So, we usually start out with a fishing report for our area. And lately it has been the Wolf River because I guess that's what we've been fishing. The fishing has been good. But this past week, we actually hit some different waters.
Yeah, we're here in northeast Wisconsin, and we were fishing some lake waters in the central Wapaka County area and did really good. The trolling bite's on for the crappies, so that's really fun. That's one of my favorite times of years when we can pull around twisties and swim baits and catch big crappies.
You know, it was a really interesting day for us, though, because we have fished this lake, I guess, quite a few times. Last year,
Tobin.
A lot of times. And the thing is, we got there and you can tell that the weed edges were fully established, but you can tell that also the water had come down from that because so many of the plants were like pushing out of the water and just like spilling all over. And so the weed lines were really, really thick and very, very defined. And so like Josh was saying, we were trolling right along that. But the interesting thing is we had started out with a larger bait than we normally use there. It just so happened. I don't know. It just... we don't get to say this very often, but like we had an awesome day. Like we caught a lot of big fish. Mm-hmm. It was really awesome.
Yeah, it's one of those 1 in a million days, you can't do anything wrong. And as long as you had the right colors on, you were doing really good. And, for Wisconsin, some of us northern states, when you get up in that, plus 12-inch crappie range, those are really good crappies for up here. They're old fish, and I think we averaged fish about 11, 12 inches. We had a few that went over 13, but a lot between that 12 and 14-inch mark that we didn't even expect. So that was a really fun day. Took a lot of pictures, let all the fish go. It was awesome.
But a few really interesting things about that is we were, like we said, trolling for the panfish. So we actually kind of scooted past another boat that was bobber fishing quite a bit shallower. And they kind of remarked at us about how we were out there walleye fishing. It was funny because I didn't actually correct them. But there was a lot of people that were trying to fish in a lot of different ways. And it was interesting because everybody was catching fish. Mm-hmm. And there was actually even a different boat out there that day that said like, oh, we almost gave up on this lake and we finally did okay here. And they caught some okay fish. But I think using our bigger baits and moving a little bit faster definitely allowed us to catch nicer fish.
Well, and if you guys watched last weekend, we were talking with Matt Rowan, and he was talking about fishing pressure systems or fishing weather systems and being that day ahead. Well, so then we had such a good day Saturday. We went right back out to that day, that water the next day, did exactly the same thing with exactly the same stuff, and we caught 2 fish, and they weren't nearly as big. But then you looked at the weather, and like the pressure went from being 30 to being almost 27, like in less than 12 hours. And so those fish just shut off. They were just watching the baits go by. And, that's the difference. That like 12 hours can be the difference of you thinking this is the greatest gem of a lake you've ever fished in your whole life to being, this is a trash lake. So just trust yourself when you're out there fishing. Not every day is going to be awesome, but every once in a while you hit one of those good days.
And with that, we are interested in where you guys are at and what you're fishing for and how that fishing is going. And, I think a lot of places fish are settling into that summer pattern. So always love hearing about that. To the people who are checking in, hello to all of you guys, because love hearing what you guys have to say. But if you have questions or comments or other things along the way, definitely drop that in the comments and we will chat about that with our guest as well. So with that, let's bring him into the show. Thanks for being here, Matt.
Hey, Matt.
Hey, how y'all doing?
Good.
Thank y'all for having me.
Yeah, thanks so much for being here. So this is so cool that we get to meet you here tonight, and I bet that there's quite a few people meeting you here tonight. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
So, well, first, I'm on vacation. I'm actually in Panama City, Florida. It's kind of we got off the water earlier, kind of messing around in Destin and Crab Island, and Had the boat till 5. Like, oh, we'll make it back. I make it for 7. Let's go. So normally this is not my surroundings. I'm originally from South Louisiana. Um, Typical Cajun. I hunt, fish, catch whatever critter that I can put in the pot, however, in whatever means necessary. Moved to Texas back in 2009. I live out in West Texas, probably the furthest place humanly possible in the United States from water. Um, but that doesn't stop me. If you see my Instagram or any of my Facebook antics, there's this group of guys that I run around with, and it's kind of the ongoing saying is like, "Where in the heck is Matt today?" Or like, "Where's Matt this weekend?" And the closest water to me that's worth mentioning outside of OH Ivy is probably 4.5 hours, and so everything's a hike. But managed to go wherever. I officially spent a lot of time in East Texas, North Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas, Mississippi. Just started venturing into Oklahoma, so that's a fun new learning adventure. Got some buddies up there that fish up on the MLS stuff, so get a little bit of insight with those guys and some of their local stuff. But I've been fishing my whole life. I work to be able to fund all this stuff and managed to pick up a few folks to help me out along the way. So kind of came across Striker, it's 2 3 years ago, right when they entered their cool wave stuff, and had to get out of the frozen tundra stuff that y'all know. Never experienced any of it, but gonna help those guys out down here and get moving. But that's about it. Just fishing as much as I can, traveling as far as I need to.
Well, and that is so crazy that you always have to travel to go fishing. Like, I felt bad for us. Like, we have to travel. It's like not nearly what what you're saying. But Matt, I also feel like I have to trust you. Like, you got a lot of sun down there on that cool wave gear, so that's actually really cool to hear all of those things.
Oh yeah. So hell, I got kind of their first run of their stuff. The high tide hoodies and stuff. And at first I was like, all right, this is cool. Like, appreciate, yeah, I'd be glad to support y'all and kind of get y'all out there. I will say that I wear it tirelessly. This bag was packed before I ever talked to you guys. I travel everywhere with Striker stuff. Like, so it just so happened, like, why not? It seems fitting. So, but no, I genuinely enjoyed it. It's been super, like, comfortable. If I can say it's been tested, it's been field tested to its nth degree. I had a trip down to South Texas last weekend, the week before, down in Choke Canyon. At noon, it was 104 degrees, like real temperature. Not like, I don't know what the heat index was, but it was hot as the hinges of Hades. But throw the hoodie on, put the little face mask on, and don't get scorched. So absolutely love it, appreciate it. It's worth its weight in gold. I will say, for every bit of what the heat gear stuff is, the rain gear, I've worn everything and I've torn holes in everything I've ever had. And it doesn't, I'm, whatever it is that I own, whether it be a boat, vehicle, motorcycle, name it, weed eater, it's destined to be tested beyond its design. And I can say without fail that Evolve rain suit is everything is hyped up to be, and I wish I had 5 more to give to everybody else. Just like, look, I'm not just pimping this stuff for the sake of it. It's really good.
Yeah.
Anybody looking for rain gear, don't go.
So we were saying that up here by us, we're just settling into that summer pattern and all that. Obviously down by you guys, it sounds like you have a lot warmer temperatures, more consistently. So where are you at in fishing? How is that going for you right now?
So typical summer pattern down in anywhere in the south, or I'm going to speak to Texas and Louisiana because that's what I fish a whole lot of. It's what I've grown up fishing. Typically right now you'd be getting schooling fish. I fish mainly bass. We go fish what y'all call crappie, what we call sockeye. That's right. It's either sockeye or bluegill when it gets this hot. Because normally nobody wants to go fish 40 foot of water for schooling bass, and you have to wait till the afternoon to kind of group up. The last 3 trips that I've taken, the deepest fish I caught was 5 foot deep. And I would have, middle of the day, 100, plus degrees, finding them up shallow in some hydrilla and eelgrass that like see them start busting shad. I'm like, what the hell? I know you kind of tell the difference between a crappie pop and a bass, and I was like, there's not a crappie alive in this world that can make that kind of freaking splash. Throw a frog up there. Next thing you know, I'm on a frog bite at 11 o'clock in the morning and fill the live well, 24, 25 pounds on top water in July in South Texas, 91-degree water. There's no reason to fish are in there. Why they're in there, I can't tell you. Not a full moon, not a new moon, in between moons, like literally dead ass in between, and catch them on top water in the middle of the day. Talked to some guys. We fished another tournament the following weekend. We had guys from a local club I used to fish in New Braunfels, and they're wearing 19, 20 pounds on 3 bass. And all these guys are catching them in 6 foot of water or less, and just inside of grass pockets, depending on the day, depending on the conditions. Are they on that? They're either in the grass up shallow, are they on the edge, are they in pockets, or are they on the bank? You got 30 feet of water to figure out where they're at. So this summer pattern has been completely backwards from anything I've ever known. Normally I do the one thing I hate to do, and that's go drop shot or throw a shaky head, throw a Carolina rig in 20 foot of water. It's not my style. I grew up fishing dirty, muddy water, 8 foot or less, get power fishing, give me a big old jig. This is all new to me. I'm catching them like this right now. Normally this time is go and use electronics, go find a bunch of brim beds and sit there and just wear out bluegill with a cricket to your heart's content.
So one of the first things that's blowing my mind is you were talking about like 90-degree water temperatures, and I'm like, whoa.
Yeah, hot. There's no jumping in the lake to get cooled off. It's like jumping into a freaking 2-hour-old bath. You're like, oh, it's not really comfortable. It's not hot enough to feel good, not cold enough to be relieved. Yeah, I'm better off on the boat. You can't cool anything off with the water. Deck of the boat's still hot. So.
Oh my gosh. But the other thing that I kind of love that you were saying is, well, you kind of scoffed at drop shotting. And I just honestly love the honesty of how you said that, because so many people feel like they have to feed into a trend or whatever, everyone's doing this, everyone's doing that. And I think drop shotting just always kind of is one of those things everyone wants to say that they're drop shotting. Why do I feel like that? Maybe I'm wrong. But I mean, I think that, everything is about that confidence bait, how you like fishing, how you are prepared to go out. And so, it's funny, even when you have days where it's totally opposite of what you would have thought, as long as you have a confidence bait or a method that is kind of your tried and true, that's a huge piece of that.
Oh, absolutely. Kind of speaking to that, went on the trip, had some clients that I brought out to Lake Fork with me. Have a buddy from Oklahoma that guides down there in the spring after he does all the duck and goose hunting. We go down there and it's mid-March, fish are spawning. They're on, the water's 8 foot low. They're not in the traditional spots, but they're all on wood. And so you go in with your live scope and you just pick them out. If I see them on beds, I've got my ways to catch them on beds, and it's going to be flipping some type of bait. Push come to shove, you could force me to throw a wacky worm, but I'm going to try every other option before I throw a wacky worm. Well, the guy's up there and he's throwing this damn shaky hit or this drop shot. Oh, get the spinny rod. I'm like, no, you can catch all you want. If that's how you have to catch them, then I'll go with catching my 3 or 4. My 3 or 4 are going to far outweigh your 20 you're going to catch. If that's what I have to do, there's 100 other things in this life I'd rather do than go through a drop shot. It's not my strong suit. I've forced myself to try and do it because I feel that when all else fails, you can always resort to that drop shot. I think it's a super productive bait. It's just not my style. Like I said, give me a 7'3", 7'5", heavy, 65-pound braid. And if I got grass, give me 1.25 ounces. I want to go punch and hit them in the head and just rip them out of hydrilla. That's my strong suit. That's Jason Christie. That's my guy. I sit there and love watching that guy flip. And that's what I grew up doing. That's what I know how. That's where I'm most comfortable. And I do believe that I can always catch them. I mean, I catch them better some days than others. But there's always going to be fish shallow. There's always fish deep. And so I'll go that route. I will go to every possible route to not throw a drop shot. And trends as they may be, you watch Jacob Wheeler sit there and just whack on 1 pound Kentucky till the cows come home. That's not fun for me. Um, that's just it's and for forever like short of electronics, it was just not something like you have. It's so specific. I'm like it's like ice fishing, right? You better be on top of them because you don't get the cast. Like just sitting there just working them deep water before electronics, you just throw it out there and hope that you're on top of them. Like they should be here. I don't know if they really are. Live scope, all the new electronics, station sonar and stuff now, you can really get on them and key into them. But even with that, I've got much more preferred ways that I find are successful, and I eliminate a lot of little fish that'll still get a drop shot. So, my own Cajun take on that.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So when you get waters that warm, you're talking about punching through weeds and all of that. I imagine that it does get really thick with weeds that warm temperatures. Does it also get very green? Do you also have clear water? I mean, I guess maybe that's a stupid question, but I'm imagining, I was going to ask if you have favorite colors for baits and stuff. And then I was like, oh, man, you're talking about all these weeds. I wonder if that affects that.
So traditionally, I would say that like any green pumpkin flavor, whatever little sprinkle you want to put in there, red, blue, green, purple, whichever. I'm pretty like whatever the base. If it's watermelon or green pumpkin, I think that goes anywhere, right? Just more natural colors. I will say that you give me a little bit of overcast and grass, I don't care how hot it is. Give me black and blue, and I'm going to work. Um, as far as the water clarity, it you can be in some stained water and you get back into some good hydrilla and you go from 1 to 2, 3 foot of visibility to 10 foot of visibility. Like it filters it all out. By the time you get into the second row of grass, it's clean. So with that, I'll revert back to more of my greens. But still, I want something that's got a little bit more contrast. So I'll go with a green pumpkin, something a little darker. There's a color that Reaction Innovations came out with called Floribama, and it's like almost like a laminate. It's like a copper, and it's a copper color on the bottom, but still a watermelon, darker watermelon with a blue flake on top. And for whatever it is, it's like a sungill or bluegill type color. They call it Floribama. I have nothing with these people, but I will buy every one of them that I find wherever I go. I don't stop at a bait shop without looking for that color. It's turned out for me this year. I've caught several fish over 7-8 pounds this spring on that color, and I happened on it. I didn't know that I even owned it. I was like, I need something that's got like a little darker. I threw it on, and I caught 4 fish on beds on Sam Rayburn that were, smallest one was 7.2, biggest one was 9.8. And this is pre-fish, and I'm just looking for fish to see what they're doing, and I'm like, oh, so we need to buy all of these. And so now that's just kind of like a strip that one day it was on and that was it. I never even knew I owned a bait, never would have taken notice to it, and I don't know that I'd ever even tried to throw it for any specific reason, but that day has been great. And ever since then, like that's my go-to, and it's kind of like quickly going into a confidence state for me that there's always a couple bags of those as I can find them. I have notifications on Tackle Warehouse when they come back in stock.
That's actually really awesome, and it's exactly the reason that I never get rid of baits. There was like one point, this was like actually a lot of years ago, and Josh was like getting rid of some random like really old baits, and he's like, do you want these? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely I do. And I'm sitting there thinking I'm never going to use those. And wouldn't you know, it just always comes back around that you do always use those. They sit in your tackle box, but then one day time is right. And then you need every single one of them that sits in there.
It's happened more than once. Yeah, I found some old Zoom, I don't even know if it's Zoom, but it's an old 4-inch like centipede worm. French fry, I think is what it's called. I was fishing as kids forever. My aunt sold her place in Toledo Bend, and I got the tackle boxes, and I was like 14 years old, 24 years ago. And my dad moved out of the house. we sold his house when I think moving to Texas, and he's like, man, come look through all this stuff, see what you want. So I find like old Ziplocs that are like barely any zip left in the lock, and I'm like, oh, let's check it. And I'll be damned, I got bored one day, just couldn't buy a bite, threw one out there, and it had like a chartreuse with black flake, and then like just a regular green pumpkin. These things are old, like there's no elasticity to them. One bite, you're done. But just mowed them down. Like I haven't bought a French fry worm in God knows how long, but the old school stuff worked then. You know, I think a lot of the stuff is designed to catch fishermen, not fish. You know, fish don't have a TV, so they don't know what everybody else is throwing or what's cool and what's coming out at ICAST next week. You know.
Yeah, that's a really great point. And it's funny because there's so many new trends so consistently. You know, I mean, I guess I was going to say in the fishing world, probably in the world all over, you know, but I think all those baits, they worked along the way. And sometimes it's just showing those fish things that they're not seeing all the time. And so like the new trends are fun and it's great to try them out, but like you're making a great point. Like maybe go back to the oldest thing in your tackle box and use that too.
Oh yeah, as a guy that I work with, super accomplished fisherman, and he's got some friends that have been on the elite series forever. Whenever it was still like Bassmasters before it was ever elite series, and they had 27 different levels of qualifying to be in the Bassmasters. But talk to some of these old guys, and they're like, Matt, look, we fish, or I'm talking to Shannon's talking to me, but we fish all over the country. A largemouth bass is the same in Florida as it is in Minnesota, as it is in Arizona. It's the same species of fish. They're doing the same thing. They may have some nuances for each individual area, but like don't overcomplicate it. You know how to catch them here, you can catch them there. You may have to change line, weight, presentation here, but you don't need 24 different colors for one place and go on the other side of the world and do the exact like opposite. Keep it simple. These fish have a brain the size of a pea. Don't let them outsmart yours.
Well,
so I think there's a lot of the old school stuff.
That's a really great point, though. I mean, like it sounds so easy. Oh, just keep it simple. And because when I first heard you say that, oh, the bass are the same everywhere, and I'm like, that's not even true. And I'm like, hearing you talk about this, and I'm like, maybe it's true. Maybe it is true. I mean, they all like rocks or this. I mean, they have that forage. Is it a bug? Is it a minnow? I mean, they follow those patterns and. I mean, I guess I hate to sound so surprised because it sounds so simple, but you're making a great point.
Right. I mean, if y'all are out trying new water, what's a trash lake? What's a good lake, right? Depending on the day, depending on everything. And so I don't think, like, if you go to, I don't know if y'all have Academy or I don't know if they make it all the way up that north, but XYZ National Bait Store. Like, there's stuff that is very popular up there that will never make it to South Texas just because we don't get the cold temperatures, so we don't have to fish some of that stuff. But if you're like, you look at what's in these pros boats that are going everywhere, they've got the same stuff like in this. It's the same basic order that's going to all these stores. How they're presented may be a little different, but I think even that's like, there's a lot of baits that are going to be shared across all of them with outside baits that really shine in one area or the other. But there's a massive chunk in the middle that work most everywhere. Figuring out what they're doing, but you put a lone rock on a point, I guarantee you graph it, there's fish there, right? Same with the grass. Like they're gonna, wind-blown points. And I will say that I think y'all set up for more pattern type fishing, where a lot of folks, like I'm the king of junk fishing. I'm going to have 7 rods on deck to do 7 different things, and I'm going to come to a point and I'm going to fish it one way. And then when I get to the little, the slack side of the water, I may get up tight and go pitch it. There may be some grass. I'll grab a frog, go throw the frog. And then when I'm coming up the next base, I'm throwing a chatterbait or a spinnerbait or just something like there may be 4 or 5 patterns going on just based off of each deal. And you can go replicate it 5 different times, but you can't be like, Matt, what are you catching them on? Here's a deck. Take your pick. Like, where are we fishing? So I think a lot of that just holds true everywhere, really. Like, we just, there's some lakes that they're all on one deal, and you catch it, you can throw a crankbait, and it's the crankbait day, and you wear them out. And it's bass on, ledges at 30 foot and they're, with current and you're on. I don't think we have enough of that consistent water to be able to go put all that together. You just catch them in all different stages doing different things and, fishing all the little clicks of fish that not really schools, it's called more clicks, doing different things. So.
Yeah, and with panfish up here, we are allowed, well, at least in Wisconsin, with all kinds of fish, we're allowed up to 3 lines. And so sometimes it's fun because you control with more than one or whatever. And, I almost was going to ask you, oh, that's cool. Like, could you use more than one line? But like with bass, you're like casting constantly, it's so interactive. And, but I love your idea of having all of that ready because let's say all of a sudden it gets super deep, you're going to want to maybe switch tactics or, there's a log and it's the fish swipes at it and misses, if you can throw a different presentation, sometimes you can get that swipe one more time. I don't know. It's just a cool idea to have all of that ready to go.
Right. Yeah. Oh, and I will say this time the deck's typically all bass rods, but the little passenger deal, it's always got a couple of little crappie rods on there now. I will say that for me, kind of in learning, and I was very one-dimensional for very long in my fishing, just power fishing. I'm not necessarily trying to figure out what they're biting. I'm trying to find the fish that are going to bite when I'm throwing them. And so since then, in trying to get more into the competitive end of the fishing deal, that doesn't always work. So you have to have plan B, C, D. Mike Tyson said everybody's got a plan to get punched in the face, and he's like, well, that's not working. What are we going to do? But in doing all that, really focusing on the panfish, the crappie patterns, and figuring out what they're doing, because all of that goes hand in hand with, it ties back into bass fishing. The more you can understand what the bait's doing, why they're there, what they're doing, they're all, bass is all their natural predators. So if you find what they're doing, you're going to find bass by default. The more you can learn to, okay, this is where these guys are at. May, June down here, you come in, you find a brim bed, grab a big old swim bait that looks like a Pirate's big KGB, and they're coming. But in learning to be better at catching panfish, catching crappie, and just knowing their transitions, it's going to dictate it coincides with a lot of bass movement. So for me, it's been a good little parlay, get a good dinner tonight, but also, it's time to go catch some money fish, go catch those too, based off of what was learned and still in the freezer.
That's why, especially in the spring, and I'm out pan fishing, and then I just catch all kinds of bass, and I'm always like, "Get this out of here."
They're tasty too, right? Just take the swimmers, leave the big ones.
Oh my gosh. The other thing that I have to ask, I guess this is a totally different topic, but we're all sitting and admiring the beautiful background. Do you go fishing when you're in Florida?
So typically I would, right? A little bit more backstory about me. I was married for 9 years, recently got divorced, living in South Texas. It was a hell of a hike to come to Florida. This is from Louisiana. This is like the most popular destination for vacations. And so haven't been on one with the whole family, extended family, cousins, aunts, uncles, everybody. So they had already had one planned. They're like, hey, can you make it? I'm like, let's go.
Yeah.
Booked a flight, came out here. So normally I would come fishing. I've got some good buddies that I used to work offshore with in South Louisiana that have all become guides out here. They're begging me to come. I'm like, man, it's family weekend. I had enough of my own time with everybody else.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I always say I have to come and do is like, do you call it like sand fishing, shore fishing, beach fishing? Like, I don't even know what the term is, but I always see like the big rods right on the shore. It just looks awesome.
It's fun. It's cool in the sense that if you chunk a piece of cut bait out there, there's no guarantee on what you're going to catch, but there's a guarantee that something is going to bite it. You don't want to be a shrimp out here. Everything eats you. Piggy first, whatever. I don't know that like the trout, with sand trout or speckled trout, that fish is too good right here. You get a little bit further inland, go chase some of the brackish waters and a little bit more bays and estuaries. There's shark sightings out here all the time, so they're here for a reason. I don't know if it's little kids or there's other bait that they find it tasty, but there's shark sightings out here pretty regular. But you can go, especially a little further west from Panama City, going back towards Destin, Pensacola, especially in the Mobile, where you get into some of the muddier bottom. There's plenty of good fishing. You can go offshore, get the red snapper pretty quick. Just not the strip.
So is that something that somebody who's new to it that they can just like go out and wing it and like maybe it'll work, or you suggest like getting a guide and someone to show you the ropes?
I would say 100% get a guide. Like for what it's going to cost you to try and sort out what works and what doesn't. So you would spend twice as much money to pick all the wrong stuff. Get a guide. There's, especially in these days, like reviews are everywhere. You can Facebook, Yelp, whatever, whoever you want. Word of mouth is still the best, right? Guys with real life experience that have actual knowledge of the people that they're referring, give you some real life stuff. But find a guide, find somebody that's reputable, figure out what you want to go do, spend the money right, and go enjoy yourself and actually like build some memories as opposed to frustration. But you know, that's kind of how I see it. It's learn what you can, but it's and especially out here, like this Gulf of Mexico is nothing to mess with, right? If you don't know how to read a radar, you don't know how to, don't know how to navigate a boat or run a compass, your electronics fail, how you getting back? Like, there's a lot of big stuff that's really never really could be massive issues if there's a failure and you don't know what you're doing. Like, go with the people that do this for a living. And
yeah.
when
Well,
you're ready
even if you're on the shore and you like
support.
do hook something, and then if it is a shark, it's like cool to like catch it and reel it in, but it's like, what do you do with the shark then?
Yeah.
No.
If you're lucky, beach it, take a picture, and cut your line. Or if you can get the hook out, if they're big enough, you cut the line out or pull the hook and send him back on his way.
Yeah, you just tell them to hold still real quick.
Yeah. Some of them are good to eat. Black tips are great eating, but they have to keep them. I know in Louisiana, that's like a 5 foot minimum to keep a black tip. So you're messing with a full grown shark. That you want to throw it in the boat, make sure he's dead. That's on you. Cut the line. Go wait till I catch something a little bit easier to deal with. So.
Florida, you have a lot to look out. If it's not sharks and it's like alligators or something like that, it's just like, oh my gosh, I'll stick to the lakes. I'm going back to bass.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't spent a whole lot of time fishing in Florida to speak to this. I mean, I know down like South Florida, I can handle alligators, crocodiles, sharks for that matter. Those damn anacondas. Y'all see those things? I saw like a 22-footer or some crap caught last week. That's for the birds. I'm out.
Yeah, that's a no. Yeah, that's funny. That's what I say too. I'm out.
Yeah. Pet pythons that are too used to people, I'm gone. I don't.
That's funny.
Yeah.
I mean, it is interesting though, because when you're out and you're fishing and like, bass and stuff, you're throwing baits that are big enough. It is amazing the different things that you do catch along the way. I mean, sometimes walleye, sometimes other fish, pike, but I mean, gosh, if it was something as unexpected as like an alligator, that's too much for me.
The alligator, like the only time I've ever caught an alligator on accident, like you see him coming, and like you almost have to like they have some on Choke Canyon in South Texas, and like you throw a frog to him, and like you run it by his head, like you hope he didn't get it because that's a $10 spro frog gone, right? So like, but they won't. I don't find like they'll go anything and like seek that kind of bait out. You go put a chicken on a hook and hang it from a tree and do like on swamp people, they're going to eat that, and you're gonna have to get rid of him or tag him or however y'all do it. I'm not speaking to that. I'm not gonna give up.
Yeah,
have done or may not have done. Taking the fifth on this one.
Oh my gosh. And then did you mention like way early in the show that you are a guide also?
No. So I've been out with some guys. So it's like,
okay.
Now I'm not a paid guy. I'm in business development for an oil field company. A lot of what I do in building business and relationships is like my values that I hunt and fish and I cook. And so guys like, hey, let's go fishing. Yeah, guess I'm not paid directly by him, but I'm paid directly on the backside that funds everything that goes. So no, I don't guide or anything like that. Anybody wants to go, hop in, throw 20 in the tank, we're good. Use whatever I have, we'll go learn some stuff. But outside of that, no, I guess part of all this came from childhood dream. I always wanted to fish competitively. Watching, waking up Saturday morning, watching Jimmy Houston and Bill Dance, and um, if I'm being honest, whenever the Northern guys came on, I was like, oh, I don't know anything about that. Like, flip the channel. There's got one of the, Bill Dance is in a pond somewhere. Let's go find him. But I always wanted to go and like try my hand at fishing. At the time, it was like, oh, I want to fish in the classic, right? Like that was always a childhood dream, but never really attainable. And had no idea on how to even start getting there. Going through divorce, going through life, doing through all that stuff, or going like living the family life, doing all that, going through divorce, and really had to take a minute to figure out who I was and what I wanted, and read a lot of books, and everything goes back like a lot of times ultimately going back to what your childhood passions, like what drove you, like that's still what drives you today. You just kind of lost sight of it, and coming out of COVID and all of that process, I was like, I'm going fishing, like I'm doing this, and so the last year and a half, 2 years have been really intentional, committed, burning copious amounts of gasoline, traveling to and then fishing, just like logging hours on a motor and getting to learn stuff. And as far as the guiding, if you want to call it a guide, hop in, I'll take you fishing. We'll go catch some, but I'm learning as much as they are. And like, you have fun in the process, so it's all fun and good. So with that, I guess this past year, fished a couple circuits, Media Bass, West individuals, some of the Team Outlaw stuff on Sam Rayburn and Toledo Bend, and then they have a really cool format that I never really heard of. Kind of stumbled upon it. It's a Sweet 16, fly fish limit. You weigh 16 pounds, you're guaranteed a check. They still do the tiered payout per serve, but 16 pounds is cut off. If you don't make 16 pounds, you get paid. But kind of I think you got to go catch quality fish, get 16 pounds for the most part, especially starting in January. Tough to bite, but still unattainable. You don't feel like you have to go catch a 30-pound stack or compete with the one guy that's just absolutely murdered 10-pounders on a ridge somewhere. But that was a fun, great learning experience. Next season, fire back up. I'd probably be a little bit more intentional about getting to some of the opens, some of the Bass Nation type stuff. MLF stuff has some pretty cool stuff with their Tackle Warehouse series and some of their BFLs, kind of grassroots stuff that offer a little bit easier path. Spent a lot of money chasing tournaments that even if I won them, I only had only got to go so high. So great learning experience, great pursuit. Figuring out I do in fact enjoy this way more than I should, and way more than most any woman I've ever met would ever really consider. I know they'd be like, no, I don't know how you do this. You've got a problem. Cheaper than medication.
Oh my goodness. So I do love hearing about all of those tournaments. And I mean, it is really fun to follow it. They all have different kind of things going on. And, so sometimes people hear like, oh, tournaments as if they were all lumped in the same way. But, I love hearing, you're describing the different circumstances that they each have. And I mean, and that makes it really fun to keep going back.
Oh, it is. And I think it's one of those deals that like, I think is, for me, I've been an athlete my whole life. Played collegiate rugby, was always active, but there comes a point in time as an adult where there's nothing to compete. There's nothing to feed that deal. 38 years old, still get to go and like feel like no, I'm not chasing the ball down the field 60 minutes at a time, but I put your money up. Let's see how we fare, right? I'm not always on the winning end of that bargain, but I'm trying, by God.
Well, and the thing about the tournaments nowadays versus where they had been is a lot of them a lot of the circuits are going a little bit more virtual, but I think the exposure, the TV's been around for a while as far as, helping prop up that tournament circuit. But I think the internet and social media and all that has allowed, like the northern half of the states to kind of follow more of the bass circuits, because traditionally we don't have a whole lot of that bass circuits up here. It's more, geared towards walleyes. But I think now it's kind of, intermingled, and
Right.
being that a lot of the virtual stuff comes in, you can go into some of the states, like, some of the Midwest states that have a little bit tighter regulations on moving fish around and stuff. But it has been fun, because, I grew up in Minnesota, and I didn't watch a whole, I watched, like you said, Bill Dance, and I watched all those shows and stuff along with our northern guys. But I didn't watch a whole lot of the bass circuits until, maybe the last 5-7 years. And it has been really fun, and you do learn a lot. So even if you aren't a bass fisherman, this is going back to what you were talking about as far as learning the panfish side to help your bass side. I kind of look at it the opposite way for me. So I'm a panfish guy, and it's different. You got your sustenance pan fishermen, and then you have the trophy pan fishermen, and I consider us trophy anglers as far as pan fishing goes. We like catching anything.
Mm-hmm.
Our target is
the pursuit of trophy
panfish,
or something.
Yeah, something like that. But watching some of the bass fishing tactics and some of the saltwater stuff too, even, like, you can add some of those things to any type of fishing, and it does make you more of a diverse and, dangerous angler for fish, I think.
Oh, no doubt. I think there's a lot of value, I believe, to be had understanding the bigger picture. I will say to the whole northern bunch in general, growing up how I grew up, I've been very one-dimensional, very one-sided. Going to places in South Texas, you get in this clear water, you have fish that do things that they never had the opportunity to do because you're in mud and 8 foot. First couple of years in South Texas, I was absolutely spun out. I'd go on Lake Olmsted, Del Rio, and you watching your swim bait at 20 foot of water, like you're watching it swim. I'm like, what am I supposed to do with this? I have no idea. Like, this is craziness. I feel that had I gone backwards and I learned in that, like, I think if you learn to catch them in those conditions, you're a lot more dangerous in the dirty water where you don't have to be as finessey, you don't have to be as so specific. Where I got to go run upriver, I got to go find mud. I got to find dirty water. Y'all are enjoying this stuff. I've got to go run and hope to find something like that. There's a lot, and so in doing it goes back to the drop shot idea. Like, I'm forcing myself to learn this. I can't try and learn it in pre-fish. That's intentional days, middle of the week. Work's kind of slow, and I can get away to get the OHIB and go and really just leave everything else. Like, not only not put on deck, take it out of the boat. I don't want to revert and going. Give me a spinning rod, and I'm going fish. So,
yeah.
But
yeah,
working hard to try and learn some new stuff.
Yeah.
Well, and actually, I mean, that's a great way to kind of sum that up, because that's exactly what we're all trying to do and why we're here even together. So, this has been awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank y'all for having me. It's been fun, and feel a little reprieve from all the rigmarole going in with 11 other people in the condo right now. So my daughter's looking around. I don't know if she's trying to sneak in to see, like, just get on a show or something. I'm not certain, but she went back in. But I keep seeing
she's welcome to come and wave if she wants.
Yeah. I don't know they can hear me. She's just trying to make sure I'm still out here on this thing, and that's outside just avoiding everybody.
You're like, oh, he snuck off and went fishing.
Yeah.
No. It's a long way down. I'm sneaking off right now.
That's funny. The angle looks like you could just like walk right out of the beach. It's not true.
No, that's pretty hell. Like,
that's awesome.
That is, it's beautiful.
There you go. So,
oh my
very
God.
panoramic view.
Well, thanks for taking us on vacation with you. That's been awesome.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thank y'all. Thank y'all for having me. Happy to be here.
Yeah.
I hope there was some value in all of this to somebody.
Absolutely.
Always.
And we're definitely going to catch up with you again, maybe soon, maybe next year as you're going through these different tournaments, catch up on all of that. But otherwise, I hope that you have a great.
Well, and for the people that are watching, do you want to let them know how they can follow you if they want to see how you're doing in tournaments? Where is Matt going to be this weekend? Type stuff. You want to let everybody know how to follow you?
Yeah. So there's no cool Instagram handle. It's just me. It's Matt Alex 129 on Instagram. I'm sorry, Matt _ Alexander 129. Well, on just Matt Alexander. Let me see what I think it's like 507 or something. I'm terrible at social media stuff. I fish not for the fame for me. But, let's just be honest. Right now, there's not a whole lot of fame to be had on my deal. But let's see. I don't even know where the heck to find this my URL thing. Where's it at? Yeah, matt.alexander.507. So facebook.com/matt.alexander.5. If anybody hasn't, I don't know, extend it to y'all if there's any value, whatever. But yeah, hit me up. I'm open.
Cool.
I'll talk to whoever. I'm not short on words. But thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, thank you to everybody at home as well, because we always love having you guys as well. And if we don't see you guys out on the water, then we look forward to seeing you on next week's edition of Hook, Line, and Striker.
Night, everybody.
Thank y'all.